Hi guys, from this video we are going to into processing language level 3. It's about interaction. In the last video I have introduced the p5.js, right, to change your processing program into web programming, which can use on web browser. So let's click this post. And p5.js was introduced in the last video, so we are going to the next one, processing language interaction. So from this video we'll see how to use mouse interaction, and then keyboard interaction, and finally sound interaction too. This page shows the mouse interaction. There are so many variables and functions. If you can see the parentheses at the end of some words, that's the function. So you can see something. So what about the mouse pressed? This is variable and this is a function. They have same name, but the first one is variable, the second one was function. So there are some difference, these two, variable and function. So you have to know exactly what is the difference between this variable and this function too. So from now, let's run one by one. So this is dynamic program mode. So we will use mouse X and mouse Y variable. So let me show how to use those two variables. So here, mouse X, mouse Y variable has the mouse X point and mouse Y point. So if you run this one, you can see this one, right? So in this dynamic program mode, we'll draw the ellipse at the right there, at the right there, right at the right mouse point. Let's try to change this program to draw this kind of thing. So to draw this kind of thing, we have to use mouse X and mouse Y variable, and we need to draw one horizontal line and one vertical line and one kind of circle. So let's change this code little by little. So let's draw this one. So you have to draw a line horizontally and vertically too. So let's use line and mouse X, 0. It's right top point, right? And mouse X and this. So let's run it. So the first line function draws the vertical line, right? So it's now turned to draw one horizontal line too. So let's draw the line, mouse Y, and this, mouse Y. That'll be horizontal line too. And we can change the stroke into 255, which means white. And let's draw a circle using ellipse function at the mouse point and small diameters too. And use no fill. So let's rerun it. Right? So if you know some kind of grammatical thing, mouse X and mouse Y, after that, that's the imagination that you need to draw something. From now, let me introduce how to use mouse X and mouse Y variable. So let me show you this. Yeah. So I can move a small red circle. So to collide with each big circle. So if we touch the big one, it will disappear. So let's make this one. So this is dynamic program mode. We have to draw several circles. So that means we need an array. So let's go to the top and let's declare some variable. So int one-dimensional array circles. No. Bricks. So that's what he have used in breakout game, right? So we can use new keyword and int and bracket. And how many circles do you want? Let's make 10 circles, right? And we need one more array variable which will contain the bricks is alive or not. So we need a Boolean variable. It will be one-dimensional. So the name should be array. That will be intuitive, right? And new. And at the same number of array element. So this is array variable, declaration and allocation. So we have to initialize those variables. So let's initialize this variable. So bricks 0 will 5. So actually this is a bricks x coordinate. Let me show you. So we have to make kind of 6 circle. So we need to 6 x position of the center for each circus. This bricks variable has that variable. So we can declare the kind of 10 bricks elements circle like this. But that's not good way, right? So in this case, we can use a for loop. So let's use for loop. For int I equals 0, I is less than 10, I plus, and blah. Let's initialize the x coordinate of each centers. Will be I times 100 plus 50. Let's say if I is 0, this value will be 50. If I is 100, that will be 150. If I is 2, that will be 250. That's what you want, right? And this case, if you change the number of elements, you need to change this one too. That's not what you want, right? So you can use here bricks length. So here the dot length means the length of the array elements. So if you change this thing into 20, this length variable has 20 automatically. That's kind of easy way, right? And we have to declare the alive variable too. It should be true. So here the alive variable means it is alive. If it is true, it is alive. If it is false, it's gone, right? So that's the initialization. And we have to change the field function, which means we'll draw the red circle, red ellipse, and let's use no stroke function too. So I think that's it for the setup function. And let's go to the draw function too. So here we have to draw the rectangle, right? It's circle for int I equals 0, I is less than bricks dot length I plus curly braces. So how to draw that? So you can draw the ellipse where bricks I, that's the x coordinate, and we'll draw at the center of the y. So we need this variable divided by 2. The diameter will be 100. So this ellipse function will draw, but we need if statement here. If alive I the brick is alive, then you can draw that. So if you have just one statement for the I block, this is fine, but I think I recommend this style. So if you have only one statement, if statement, so you don't need to use the curly bracket. But if you add on kind of some other statement, you have to use curly bracket, right? So in my case, I like to use curly bracket in case of just one statement. That's my preference, but it's up to you. And we need to draw a small circle, ellipse, where mouse X and mouse Y. Let's draw a little small circle. Let's draw the small circle into yellow. And let's change the colors once again. Black for later. So this should be ellipse. And then what do you have to do? You have to collision checking. So collision checking, right? Between the small circle and red circle. We need for loop. Int I equals 0. One more thing. I plus curly bracket. So how to check it? So let's draw something. If you have one circle here, big circle, and this is small circle, which you move the mouse. So this is the center of the small one. This is the center of the small one. If they are collide to each other, the radius of this one. So let's say this is radius 1. This say radius 2. If radius 1 plus radius 2 is less than what? The distance between those two centers. That's the collision, right? So we'll see these things in this code. So let's use if statement. If you know the distance function, right? So you have to give one point and another point, and breaks I comma with divided by 2. So let's say the first two number is the center of the small circle. The second number shows the center of the big one, each one. How to say that? So if they are collide, so distance is smaller than the diameter for the big circle plus the diameter for the small circles. So here 30 is the diameter. I'm sorry. So 15 is the radius, right? So 100 is the diameter for the big one. The 50 is the diameter and radius for the big one. So if they collide each other, you have to change the alive variable for the I for false. Right? So at each iteration of the draw function, if they collide each other, the alive variable will change it to false, which means the draw part will be not drawn. Right? I think that's it. So let me run it. Sorry that. So we have 6 big one and small red one, yellow one. If they collide each other, yeah, they'll be gone, right? Until now, we have learned how to use mouse n, x, and mouse y variable. There are so many others. So from now, we will learn how to use p mouse x and p mouse y. Here, p means the previous. So p mouse x contains previous mouse x point. Here, previous means previous frame. So can you see this one? So using p mouse x and p mouse y variable, you can make this kind of thing, kind of snake following thing. So we are going to draw a line from mouse x and mouse y to the p mouse and p mouse y, which can show this kind of effect. So let's close this one and let's do the dynamic program mode. So we are going to draw some thick line. So we need a stroke rate function, make a kind of thick line. So for the barrel effect, let's change the frame rate to a little slower than usual. And let's go to the draw function. We are going to draw the line from where? Mouse X and mouse Y to P mouse X and P mouse Y. So let's run this code. So if you run this code, you can see this kind of things. So we'll just draw one line. So one line seems to following the mouse point. If you slow down this thing, frame rate a little more, you can see these things, right? Or if you make it faster, you can see this one. So if you want to draw one more line, what do you have to do? So in this case, we have to declare our own variable. Let's say float pp mouse x. Here pp mouse x means previous or previous. So two frame before, and pp mouse y. Although this frame p mouse x and p mouse y is system variable, so you don't need to declare that. But if you want one more variable to draw more than two, you need your own variable too. So after drawing this variable, you have to have pp mouse x equal p mouse x to store the previous mouse x into pp mouse x. So we are going to use pp mouse x later. So pp mouse y contain p mouse y. So after drawing one line, we need one more line. So we need to draw p mouse x from, we are going to draw pp mouse x. Right? After, yeah, I think that'll be it. If you run this code, you can see, oh, am I have some problem? Oh yeah, after drawing the line, we need a backup. So we have to move these two lines to here. Let's rerun it. See, you can see two lines. So if you move faster, you can see the difference clearly. So this is about the p mouse x and p mouse y. So now we know how to use mouse x and mouse y variable, also p mouse x and p mouse y variable. So we know how to use this variable. So from now on, we will tackle mouse press variable and mouse button, which means left button or right button, and then mouse press function too. So let's see these three things. So let's use mouse press variable first. So in this dynamic program mode, we can use mouse press variable. So this is system variable which has true or false, which means this is a Boolean variable. So if you press the some mouse button, this variable has true. So if mouse press is true, so this is same to this one, right? This is simple. So if mouse pressed, then what do we have to do? So we are gonna change the fill color into black. Then else we're gonna change the fill color into 255, which means white. So after changing the color, we're gonna draw a rectangle full size. So here, let's see, you're gonna open the canvas 600, and if you press the mouse, the fill color will be black, else fill color will be white. After changing the color, you are going to draw a rectangle with those colors. So if you run this code, so you will see this canvas. If you click, it will be black, right? So this is how to use mouse press variable. Then let's change this code to use mouse button. So now we are going to make this program. So normally, usually the background is 128, which is gray. So if you press left button, it will be getting darker into black. If you press right button, it will be changing to white. Okay, let's see this one. So how to do this one? So we have to make some more code inside the if statement. So if you click the mouse, if you press the mouse button, you have to check the button is left or right. So we have this system variable. So mouse button has left or right. So if you click the mouse, press the mouse button, you have to check the mouse button is left or not. So if the mouse button is left, you are gonna change the color into black. So you need to delete this one. Else if the mouse button is right, we'll change the color into white, right? And normally the background is 128, which is gray. So normally the background will be gray color, but if you press the mouse button, we are gonna check the button is left or not. So keep in mind, so this block should be contain this if, right? So this is nested if statement, which means there are if statements inside if statement. This is called nested if. So I think that's it. So we're gonna draw the rectangle, right? So let's run it. So normally, oh, I'm sorry, something changed, right? Something is different. So although you have set these things, so the color will be left or black or white. So before doing this, if you don't press some mouse button, you have to fill 128. Okay. So normally this is gray. Click left button, click right button. So in this case, we are going to draw the rectangle in full size. So you don't need to this background function. It's up to you, but yeah, let me be clear. That's it. It's time to check what is the difference between mouse pressed variable and mouse pressed function. So let's see the difference between these two. So you can see this code, right? So we have one global variable I will be initialized into 0 in a set of function, and in draw function, if you press the mouse button, it'll be print out and it'll be +1. So if you want to just increase 1 by 1 whenever you press the mouse button, maybe you can code like this, but let's see what happens. So this is program. Please look at the console carefully. So I will press the button just one time. So I only pressed the button just one time. So but the I variable was changed into from 0 to 5, which means this draw function is so fast. So when you press the mouse button, the draw function will be run like several times. In this case, 6 times. So this I variable will increment to the 6 times. So if you want to do some program, which means if you press one mouse button and just do one time, you have to use mouse pressed function rather than mouse pressed variable. So we are going to change this code. Let's declare this code. So we need mouse pressed function. So this is called shape like this. Like the setup function or draw function, the mouse press function is system function. So if you need some jobs, you need to code right here. So if you press some mouse button, you are gonna print the variable I, and I will be increment by 1. So draw function is empty. That's fine. So if you press the mouse button, this will be run just one time per one mouse press button. So let's run. So look at the console carefully, right? Whenever I click the mouse button, this mouse press function will run just one time. That's the difference between mouse pressed variable and mouse pressed function. So until now, you have learned how to use these things and these things too. What I have more? So this other function is really similar to the mouse pressed function. So mouse click means pressed and release. Mouse drag means mouse move and pressed. So in case you need this kind of function, you can see the documentation and see the example, and then you will know how to use these functions. And this is almost the end of the mouse interaction. So from now on, we are going to make this kind of program. So for the left one, we are going to draw 2 circles, and these 2 circles will follow the mouse point slowly. This kind of technique is called easing following. And if you want to use just 1 2 circle, this is simple. And let's see the right case. So if you make one of the kind of 10 circles with aging technology, you can see some kind of special interesting effect, right? So let's see from the simple one first. We will draw just one circle and it will following the mouse point. It is slowly following the mouse. So this is called easy. So let's make this one first. So let's guess how to make easing technique. So let's see, this is mouse point. So in a previous frame, there is one circle right here. The X and Y is the center of the circle. So if you change this mouse X and Y variable, which means the center of the circle, into mouse X and mouse Y, it will go into directly here, right? That's not what you want. So it has to come closer little by little, right? So you have to change the X and Y variable slowly, right? So according to the distance between the mouse X and Y and center of the circle. So you have to come closer, kind of 50%, and then once again 50%, once again 50%, once again, right? So you have to change the X and Y point little by little, according to the distance between these 2 points. So let's do it. So you need a 2 variable, X and Y. This is the center of the circle, right? So after declaring the variable, we will draw the ellipse, draw function where X and Y, how big, 100 diameter. So that's it for drawing just one time. But before drawing ellipse, we need to change the X and Y, right? How to change this? Let's declare one more variable here, float distance X and distance Y. So distance X is the amount of change of X variable. Should be mouse X minus X, right? That's the distance to the target. So here the X is the center of the ellipse and mouse X will be the target destination. So mouse X minus X is the distance to the target. And we don't use this dx dy directly. Let's see what it means. So after changing dx and dy, if you just add on dx y plus assignment dy, in this case what will happen? So let's see. So if you code like this, the mouse, the circle go to the mouse point directly. That's not what we want. So we have to change dx dy little by little, which means we are gonna add dx to the x, but we need to multiply something. I'll tell you later. So the easing should be less than 1. Less than 1. So we are gonna declare the easing variable into kind of 0,1. It means 10%, right? So let's rerun this code. So can you see? So if you change this variable into smaller, it will go following the mouse point slowly, right? So if you change this code, the speed of easing will be changing. So this is for just one circle, and this is for 10 circles. So 10 circles is following my mouse point with different easing parameters. So you can see the source code. We have to use array variable. 4 array variable. The first one is x, and second is for y. So the third is for the speed for the 10 different circles, and 4 different circles radius too. So if you know how to use one-dimensional array variable, you will see this code and understand how to implement this code. So if you need this code, come to my github.com. So you can see some of the different source code examples too. Yeah, this is the end of the master instruction. In in the next video, you can see how to use keyboard interactions. So, bye!